This one is going to be about sacrifice. It's going to be a weird one. I'll be using a lot of weird words and weird metaphors, and everything is not to be taken literally. Sacrifice, where does this idea comes from? Sacrifice, to sacrifice. It is to have intercourse. That's where the first ever idea of a sacrifice ever came into being, is the act of intercourse. The act of intercourse is a preparation. You are testing for that special day in which the powers of the elemental self are going to be mixed with the powers of the mind and literally breathe a new life into a new vessel. This new vessel is the hearthfire that burns. That burning is going to give birth to the next generation. It's the uterus, you see. So symbolically, people would burn offerings in an altar. It's symbolic for the uterus and the mixture of these elements. So symbolically, they would burn stuff in the altar. The smokes would rise into the skies, into the heavens, which would feed the gods who are in heaven. And then the gods would respond with precipitation. This rain that would fall from the skies would be packed with good things, nutrients, minerals, etc., and would fertilize the soil in which plants would grow, and animals would eat the plants, and we would eat the animals. It is a circle, the circle of life. And it starts with burning, the burning away, a sacrifice. So, why is it called a sacrifice? Because if you are aware of what you're doing, of course, most people who are not aware of what they're doing, they are nothing more than animals. And they are just replicating. There's no soul being transmitted. Only those who know what they're doing are transmitting soul into the next generation. So it's called a sacrifice because you kind of have to dismember the deity, the one who lives in your heart, sitting in your heart. You have to dismember it. You dismember it so it can be breathed into the next vessel. Some even say that this dismemberment is a sin, is an act of sin, is an offense. You are aggressing the deity. But the deity doesn't care because it does this willingly. You see, the deity is a dragon, and dragons live in caves. Caves are in mountains, and the mountains is allegory for our body, the physical self, the psychophysical. The cave is where the dragon lives. It's where the soul resides temporarily in that cave. So you, the psychophysical, may slay the dragon. That's when you dismember the deity. You go inside the cave and slay the dragon. You dismember the dragon and you bring a piece of it, and with that piece you recreate new life with another shard of the one, of the divinity. That's procreation. That's when you slay the dragon. You, the psychophysical. The gods unite. The gods, or the powers of the soul, are your sensors, yeah, and they unite in order to dismember the deity and breathe into the next vessel. So that's a sacrifice, but the dragon is slain this time But upon death, it is the dragon that slays you around. Yes? The psychophysical slays the dragon when it procreates, but when the organism passes away, it's the dragon that slays the psychophysical the other way around. So the hero is analogy or metaphor for the psychophysical, slays the dragon, and marries the princess, right? But when the hero grows old, it is the other way around that happens. The dragon then abandons the cave and the hero perishes. The ego is metaphor for the hero is metaphor for the ego, and it just perishes because it has a beginning and an end in time. You see? So another metaphor that you can use is the solar deity that you see in the sky. The solar deity goes about and it devours the moon. When the moon is full and replenished, the solar deity, the Indra, it assimilates the moon, it marries the moon. There's a marriage that happens. And marriage is also synonymous with death. The assimilation of two, the two, it means the death of one. Yeah. They become one, and the moon then starts going smaller and smaller. Waning, it starts waning. That's the assimilation until it completely disappears. That's the new moon. You don't see it in the sky. It disappeared literally. That's when assimilation is fulfilled. And then what happens? The moon starts growing again. Yeah. So that the sun might devour it again. Every month out of the 13 months of the year, the sun does this. So while the sun is doing this, it means that this place, whatever it is, it's continuing, while the sun is interested in the moon. That's immortality. That's, So anyway, I hope I made any justice to that analogy. I don't think I did. So another way into talking, analogically speaking, about this sacrifice is when you feed the gods a special beverage. You feed the gods the soma. In some traditions, it's a special drink that you crush plants with. These plants are born atop of the mountains being a metaphor for the body. These plants are born atop of these mountains. They crush these plants and then they give them to the sacrificer for them to consume. This is a beverage for the gods, the powers of the soul, that will signify, metaphorically speaking, the sacrifice. In other places of the world is a shot of Porto wine. It's called the transubstantiation. But it's just symbolic, like the offering, the burnt offering. So you give the soma, which is the beverage, food for the gods. It is the, what's it called? Ambrosia. When you give that food for the gods, you are signaling, get ready, it is time to do the sacrifice. So why do you do that? Well, there are two types of sacrifices. The first sacrifice is when the sun and the moon come together and they reproduce. They get married, they assimilate, and the next generation is reborn, right? That's the first sacrifice. Then there's another sacrifice, the type that you self sacrifice. You see, you don't need to reproduce to sacrifice. You can do a self sacrifice. You feed the gods the elixir of life. The elixir of life is not a physical medicine like everybody seems to be under the impression. The alchemists and whatever, they were looking for the elixir of life in the psychophysical. That's psychosis. That's not possible because the elixir of life is spiritual. It's something spiritual. You feed the spiritual, you feed the gods. The soma oblation, which is the sacrifice, you feed the gods this ambrosia, this elixir of life. These oblations are then incorporeal. They are not tangible. They are invisible. And it is through these oblations that are incorporeal that the sacrificer wins immortality. You pretty much have to gain control over the psychophysical. Yes, to be in control over the the physical self. Like a yogi, you know. Where was it? The yogi says, I yoke myself like an understanding horse, which is only another way of referring to those who offer up all the workings of the senses and the breaths in the fire of the yoga, of self-control and kindled gnosis. Self-control and gnosis. You know, when you become perfectly in control over this psychophysical self, you know, when you are in perfect control over the psychophysical self, the horse, you're like the horse rider. It does and says everything you want. He has no desires whatsoever. You control everything. You know, this is what, other people call a dead man walking, because only upon death we can achieve such a thing. To be in perfect control or the absence of the psychophysical. It can happen before you die. If you have perfect control over the psychophysical, you become then similar to a dead man walking. Meaning you are still alive, right? But it is as if you were dead. You're in the other state of being, that type of being that doesn't have a physical self. If that makes any sense. So the elixir of life is not a physical medicine. It is this spiritual elixir that you give in order to attain liberation, basically. Liberation from the psychophysical, liberation from the hindrances of the body. So there's two types of sacrifices in order to attain immortality. Well, the first sacrifice, you're going to have to become a comprehensor. You have to understand what you're doing. So you prepare yourself, you follow the moon, right? When the moon is full, then you try to marry the moon, right? It probably coincides with ovulation. You become one with the moon, right? Of course, this takes preparedness. You have to prepare yourself spiritually. Most of the times you have to pray for everything to go well. you know, and then you literally shoot a piece of the monad into the fire, into the hearthfire, which is the moon's uterus, and then a new life may spring. For those who are not understanders of this practice, of this sacrifice, only animals will be born. You know, only animals will be born. I've heard somewhere that there's more bodies than there are souls on the world. Yeah, pretty much. Everybody is in the animal state because people kind of became ignorant of the self, and all these bodies about it are just, no different from animals. So, to attain immortality, you either do it correctly or you self sacrifice, which has nothing to do with losing. It only has to do with winning. Sacrifice, everybody wins. It is something that is kindled by gnosis. Gnosis. All right. Tell me what you guys think. Have a nice day. And Happy New Year. And don't take seriously the things I say.